We've got a challenge from the wonderful Lorna Brown this week. So the first key step of this challenge, once we've brought our data into Tableau Prep, is to use the data interpreter on our data. And that's because if we don't use this, then all of our SDG fields, the arrow indicators, they will be renamed as F6, F8, and so on and so forth. Whereas if we use that data interpreter, and if I give it a moment to finish loading, then what happens is that it gives us the SDG that that indicator is associated with, and then the number 1. So just like say that this is a renamed field, we're going to name it a number 1 so that we can associate both the color and the indicator arrow with the SDG, which is really good. So that's a win for the data interpreter first of all there. If I just scroll over to show you, there we go, there's an example of one of them. So we've got the colouring and then the arrows and then the colouring and then the arrows. So that pattern repeats across the data set. Now for reshaping that data, so we want it so that we have for each country a row for each of those SDGs, and we want both the colour and the arrow indicator to be on the same row, and for that we'll do a multiple pivot. So we've dragged over our SDGs, so from 1 to 17, dragged those on, then used the little plus icon to add on another column in our columns to rows pivot, and this time we do all of those fields that are ending in the 1, so those duplicated fields or same named fields. They're the ones in Excel that have the same name for that column as a merged cell. Okay, so then we'll just do some renaming. So for example, that pivot 1 names that's generated, we will rename that to SDG name. We will rename pivot 1 values to the SDG value, and pivot 2 values to being SDG trend. And then it's simply a case of renaming these so that they aren't colours and arrows, but rather what those colours and arrows represent. So the simplest way to do that, how I've done that in this workflow, so for example, if I have green, I double click there and just type in what green represents instead. So I haven't, well, I did accidentally change that there. I didn't mean to. In the next step, that's where we do all of those changes. So if I want to go back and see which ones are which, so for example, if I've got challenges remaining, you can see that it's got yellow grouped in there. And then we do exactly the same thing for the arrows, just replacing them using our typing. We could write an if statement, but it's quite nice not to have to write a whole if statement just to replace those values. And then we're ready to output the data. The data is ready for the Workout Wednesday challenge. So thank you very much, Lorna, for this challenge, and thank you very much for watching.